Vandeham Shri Guru.
So I'm supposed to be talking about concentration. So we did mantra meditation last time we got together. And of course, when we try to chant, we have noticed probably that our mind goes here and there. And so today's topic is how to really concentrate the mind. What does it take to concentrate the mind? And what are the obstacles, specifically 6 obstacles, that are in the path of pure meditation. So maybe we'll start with a little discussion about what do you think are certain things that stop you or stop us from focusing the mind on the sound or focusing the mind when we're studying for exams? Or what are some of the things that bother us?
Thoughts.
The trivialities of life.
What life?
The trivialities of life.
Specifically? Is it a trend?
Yes.
What is it?
I mean, as for example, I just graduated, so, for me, specifically, it would be like, job. It goes on and on. This keeps adding on and on for different people.
Probably job for a lot of us. Anything else?
And during chanting, it's homework, and during homework, it's internet.
Perfect.
This noise,
External noise.
Other people.
Unfinished business, like you have something running in your head, you want to finish it, and you want to chat also, and it keeps like, you have to do that, you have to do that, you have to do that. It's
Well, this
always
is- yeah.
reminding you that, you've not finished that work.
Right.
Or, or probably, worrying, like he said, anything, and it's just a small thought which is like holding you back.
Right.
You start the chanting, and in the middle you just pop, the thought just pops.
Anxiety.
Anxiety. Okay. These are all symptoms of the mind. We all go through these things. I mean, if you really look at it, it's either we're living in the past, lamentation, like, oh, I could have done that better in the exam or something. Or it's in the future, like she said, unfinished business. And then it's always bothering us. And then this is a very nice depiction. This picture, it's given in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna speaks about it specifically. That the mind are those reins on the horses. The horses are the 5 senses. So you can see the eye, nose, tongue over there. So like that, they're pulling us in different directions. And that guy who's in blue robes, that's the intelligence. If intelligence is very weak and cannot control the horses, that's what happens. And there is back there, that's us, the soul, completely like helpless. Oh my God, everything is out of control. So think about you're driving through highway, 80 miles an hour, and you fall asleep, right? It's a pretty scary situation. So that's our lives, 99.99% people's lives. That's where all the worries come, the stress comes, the fear, the anxiety, the unfinished businesses, because constantly the senses are pulling us in different directions. And one business finishes, the next business. So I was thinking when you were speaking that there's always unfinished business. Even before we die, there's a story of this guy who was leaving his body at the end of his life. And he was so fortunate that a very saintly person came to him at the time. Was like, hey, Kailash, take up spiritual life. And the guy was like, no, I got to sign some papers to make sure my sons get the property equally and there's no fight, no lawsuits after my death. And as saying that, he left his body. He couldn't even sign the papers. He couldn't, think of anything spiritual. He just left his body. So like that, there's always unfinished business in our lives. And the mind is always pulling us. It's like, oh, we need to do that or that or that or that. Why? The promise is happiness. That maybe if I get this, I'll be happy. Maybe if I do that, I'll be happy. And when we get there, there is a more hope. Hope against hope, that we'll be happy at some point. We thought we'll those of you came from India, most of you are from India, thought, oh, we're going to US. There's golden trees, maybe purple skies, beautiful girls, lots of money. When we come here, things are a little different. Maybe almost same as where we were. The same problems, the same issues, maybe more stress. Who knows? So it continues the same way. So this is a very common symptom. At least when I was growing up, for me, that was always the case. In India, schools have generally like 50 to 70 students. My class had like 72 students. And I could barely hear the teacher. And I'd be like, gazing like, nice trees. And I used to write poetry. History class poetry. So basically, the mind is everywhere. I'd rather focus on something else. And this happens during meditation too. Anything we do in life, even while driving, most people are, these are the way sometimes accidents happen or people are texting nowadays. So here, it's a different scenario altogether. And these people might be in the same situation in classrooms. But when they're in the field, look at them. Look at their faces. Completely focused on the ball. What is it that really helps them focus so nicely? I've heard that athletes, before they start the game, they go to a room and they start concentrating. They have some practices to concentrate the mind. There is a coach that gives you a little boost, a little speech that really peps you up against the other team. There's a lot of things happening, but there's a focus. And you know what? When they're going around the crowd, let's say it's the opposition crowd, they might be, saying terrible things about your mother or your father, or about yourself, about your wife. But you got to keep your focus. You know that this is it. This is my life right now. The ball. I got to, play hard. So that comes from the intelligence. So remember, the intelligence has the reins. So that intelligence can control the mind. And then the mind tells the senses to get together and focus on one thing. So today I was in a very, very time crunch situation where, I had to do this PowerPoint at, I'm in the middle of moving, and then I had to come here, so I'm kind of late, that's why. And I was like I was focused like anything. I could never focus like that. Only under pressure I could focus, because I know Nityananda Prabhu, he would be pleased if I do a nice presentation here. So that was the intelligence working, telling me, focus your senses. So, bringing the mind back with the help of the intelligence. This is the key. Because a lot of times we try a lot of mechanical processes. People do yoga, people do all kinds of things. But what really helps is intelligence. And material intelligence, just like matter, is, what are the three qualities of matter? Stephanie, you wrote an article about it. It's okay. Somebody else? Chris? Three qualities of matter.
There was one where it's lasting, so it only lasts for a short while.
Great.
I forgot what's it called though.
Temporary.
Okay.
Second?
No consciousness.
No consciousness. So it's dumb. You can beat it, it won't cry back. Third?
Can be destroyed.
That's temporary. There is no happiness that can be derived from matter. So just the opposite, our soul is eternal, full of happiness and full of knowledge. Cognizant, conscious. So spiritual intelligence has the spiritual potency of eternality. So if you have spiritual intelligence, you can be focused at any situation, regardless of time, place, and circumstance. If you have material intelligence, you will be focused for a time being, like in the football game or whatever that was. But once you're out, you might just crash into another car because you're spacing out thinking about something. So this is what the Bhagavad Gita. I mean, the cover of the Bhagavad Gita also has that same picture, but Krishna is sitting where intelligence is. So spiritualizing the intelligence. That's what we are learning through the process of Krishna consciousness. So here it says in chapter 3, text 42, the working senses are superior to dull matter. So dull matter and then the senses. Mind is higher than the senses because mind controls the senses. Then intelligence is still higher than the mind because with intelligence we can control the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence because the soul is spiritual in nature and spirit by default is superior to matter. But for some reason or another, our soul is covered. So our spiritual self, the identity, who we are, the true identity is covered. And so with the layers of false identity, the material identities that we have in relationship with the body, man, woman, rich, poor, whatever that might be, that leads to the false ego and the false intelligence. Everything based, if the fundamentals are false, then everything based on that is false. So for Bhagavad Gita, we are learning about spiritual cultivation. So the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra helps with this process. It's the cleansing process, cleansing of the consciousness, bringing out our spiritual self. So now we'll talk about what are those 6 things given by the Vedas. So 6 distractions are lust, anger, greed, illusion, pride, and envy. And it's not like somebody is affected by lust, somebody is affected by anger. We are all affected by all of these in various degrees of proportion. And thus, it might be for some people unfinished business, for some people it might be that sound or that music or the Bollywood tune or whatever that might be, or the professor, the homework to be done, whatever various degrees of proportion. So today we will cover lust. So generally in the Western world, in English, lust is connected with sex, is that? But yes, so that is a true definition, but there is a broader sense, a broader picture. And that is, we have these 5 senses, and it is the constant urge to gratify our senses. And the act of sex is at the most grossest form, because all of the 5 senses we are looking to gratify. The sense of touch, the sense of smell, you know what they are. But at the same time, there are subtle levels of lust. And it starts with contemplation. So while we're chanting, let's say, while we're meditating, a thought comes. And then it's not like the thought just comes and goes away. It stays. Then we contemplate on the thought. Wouldn't it be nice? And then you add one more layer. Maybe this. Generally, when this happens to be, I write it down. I just tell the mind, shut up. Move on. But otherwise, it keeps adding up. And then we think, oh, will I forget? Because it's a good thought. Because all the ideas come during chanting. At least, for a lot of practitioners, I've noticed that the good ideas come during chanting. So the idea is, tell the mind to quiet down with the help of the intelligence. It's like those players in the game, they know this is the time to focus. Doesn't matter what the audience is saying. Doesn't matter if my hair is not looking right. Doesn't matter what's happening anywhere. I got to focus on the ball. So like that, if our intelligence, we can really strengthen our intelligence. Like, okay, this is time for meditation. I got to focus. Mind, talk to you later. Right now, it's time for meditation. So like that, we are not stuck up in the past or in the future. We can be present. So not just meditation, in our day-to-day interactions, in our relationships. When, let's say, we are talking to somebody on the phone or talking to a person, we're not fully there. Have you noticed? Does it happen to anybody, or is it just me? Like, you're talking to your, friend or teacher, and in your mind you're thinking, I'm really hungry, or what's for lunch? Thoughts like that, or we're planning the next day. So we kind of zone out, zone in, zone out, zone in. We are not fully there in the relationship. And it happens in relationship with the most loved ones that are most special to us. So it's not just meditation, it's not just during chanting. Throughout our lives, we are never present. We are always either in the past or in the future, lamenting or hankering. So back to the picture. So to summarize, the three things that happen are thinking, feeling, and willing. And we covered this during Anatomy of Anger also. The same thing, thinking, feeling, willing. We let the thoughts stay over, our intelligence isn't strong, and what happens is, they take over. So I think I covered this, unless there are any questions. So, here is a person counting money. Generally, I was Googling for images for a bank teller counting money, but I realized the door is right there, so he's not the bank teller. He's actually the customer. But let's imagine for a second, this is the bank teller counting money. This person doesn't think that this is my money, right? They know it's a bank's property, and it should come from whatever person goes to some place taken care of. Now, what happens when this person thinks, like this guy's thinking, what if I could take one note and put it in my pocket? Who would notice, right? They end up in jail. So, like that, in our lives, we look at things, we look around, and we're constantly thinking, that's for my enjoyment, that's for my enjoyment, I want this, I want that. So it's not just objects, but also people. So money is not bad. Women aren't bad. Men aren't bad. Cars aren't bad. It's a mentality of exploitation. That's not appropriate. Because the first thought when we look at things is, this is for my enjoyment. For example, let's say there's a married couple and a friend comes to the person and does he think this wife is for my enjoyment? No, they know that there is a husband, so this lady is taken. I'm not going to, think about this. Maybe thoughts come, I don't know. But the point is, at least you know this person is married, so you don't pursue it. So like that, there's a source, there's a creator that we call Krishna. And everything that we see around us has been created. We didn't make it, we didn't come up with it. But we think it's our property. We feel free to grab it, exploit the heck out of it, ruin forests, do whatever we want with people, with nature, with anything around us. And that mentality is the lusty mentality. Thinking that everything is for my enjoyment. So Krishna consciousness is a transformation of consciousness. Where the transformation is, everything has a source. And there's a sense of gratitude. That I'm grateful. I will use what is necessary for my sustenance and maintenance. And how should I use it? So we'll talk more the details about it. But how to use things in proper consciousness. And that way we don't get entangled in this situation. So thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence. O mighty armed Arjuna, that's Arjuna with the bow and arrow. O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. So we remember the soul is higher than the intelligence, right? So the soul, knowing oneself to be transcendental than anything that's material. The intelligence is material, the mind is material, the senses, the sense objects. Everything is material, but we are actually higher than all that. So with the proper knowledge, when we know that, and we can see life like that we are not this body, we are the soul, and act from such a perspective, then we can, concentration is just a byproduct of that. Our whole perspective of life changes. We respect everyone. We don't want to hurt anybody. Because we see the perspective, who is the source of everything. And the whole point of Krishna speaking 700 shlokas is that connection. We can reestablish that connection with Krishna. So once we understand the loving relationship with God, or the source of everything, then we automatically feel loving towards everything that's coming from God. It is said, Prabhupada mentioned, that when a mother sees his child's shoes, she feels almost as connected to the shoes as she feels connected to the child. Because the child's shoes, there's a connection. So for us, in the temple, I was giving somebody an example that even if we see like a broomstick for cleaning surfaces, but if it belongs to the altar, we're like, oh, it's the altar broomstick. I should be careful. Otherwise, we can just, we throw things around. So it's not just on the altar, everywhere around us. Where did everything come from? So it's a constant, understanding that stays, and it comes with practice. It's not a mechanical process. It's a natural process, the natural cleansing process of our heart. At one point, it will be natural, but where we are, that's why we're called practitioners. There's the sadhana stage, or the practicing stage. And in the purport, the same verse, Prabhupada says, one may not give up work and prescribed duties all of a sudden, because that could be an understanding that, oh, I don't want to do anything with money or studies or family, I'll give up everything. So, but by gradually developing Krishna consciousness, one can be situated in a transcendental position without being influenced by the material senses and the mind, by steady intelligence directed towards one's pure identity. So what is the pure identity of the self? In one sentence? Soul. One word. Yes. It's the soul. That we are spiritual beings. So what does it mean to be a soul? Pure identity. So there is soul. I have a soul. But then what's the identity of the soul?
Satchitananda.
Yes.
Okay.
So, like in Sanskrit, generally when they define somebody, like when Krishna is defined, it's talked about Krishna, son of Nanda and Yashoda. Or, so that's how a person is defined. So, I'm a soul, I'm a part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, or Krishna. So, by steady intelligence directed towards that identity. So the intelligence is always directed towards the spiritual basis of life. Even though a devotee and a materialist can do the exact same things. Can go to work, can be studying, can be married, having children. But the consciousness is different. And the more this is strengthened, this intelligence is strengthened, the more the mind is controlled. And when the mind is controlled, sense is controlled. I was recently given an instruction to control how much I eat, to wake up at a certain time, so that mind control equals sense control. I tried sense control for so many years. It's so difficult, especially when I'm hungry. But this really helps. Having a regulated schedule really, really helps. And that's why we're starting already we started the Krishna House. So we just bought a property on 3135 South Michigan Avenue. So 6 of us would be living there, VBS students and myself. And we'll wake up at a certain time every day. We'll have meditation in the morning. We'll eat food that has been offered to God. We'll come back from work, studies. We'll again have a little bit of time to read. and have a little, watch a little video, something, again, spiritual in nature, not movies. And go to sleep at a proper time. And, in between there is homework time and other things happening. So regulation helps control the mind. And when the mind is controlled, like we saw, there is a hierarchy. The senses are automatically controlled. So when we are meditating, or when we are working, when we are doing, studies, we are there, full concentration. Otherwise, what happens? I mean, the place I work, most people are either talking about the hangover they had last night, or what their Facebook friends are talking about. I mean, it's practically a known fact. Like in software engineering, they call sprints. So there are points. So one point is supposed to be, I think, 3 hours, and then something. But they take it for granted that one of those hours is wasted on conversations and Facebook and whatnot. But if you can be focused and present, just imagine how efficient we would all be. And I have noticed that coming to Krishna consciousness, my work takes 1/8 the time what it used to take. Not saying I'm very focused, but even whatever little bit I have been able to learn and practice, that has helped so much. So it's a very, very practical process, this Krishna consciousness, and it's not just for meditation, it's for our daily lives. And Krishna conscious person is an exemplary person. Whatever fields they might be. Our teachers in our line of disciplic succession, they're all exemplary personalities. One favorite person of mine is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who's Srila Prabhupada's grand spiritual master. He was a magistrate of the state of Orissa. It was in India. And magistrate means practically, he's at the time, the British regime, they were like the governors. So he has immense power and authority. But he was a very, very solid devotee. So he would finish his judicial work in 2 hours, what other judges would take 8 hours. And in the rest of the time, he would write books. He would speak about Krishna consciousness. This is one college program, right? He had 2,000 college programs in West Bengal and Orissa. 2,000, one person. He had 10 children that each one of them he took care of very nicely. So family man, there is work, and then there is Krishna consciousness. He was studying himself, chanting. I believe he was chanting 172 rounds every day. We chant 16, generally who are practicing. So such a personality. So example in every single way. One time the British British government told him, you have to be in such and such place, and he said, no, I quit. And they said, please don't quit. And they created a railway track all the way to his doorstep. It's still there. I just went 2 years ago and I saw it. I'm couldn't believe it. So he's such a...
Where is it?
In Mayapur, West Bengal. You can see from his house all the way to Jagannath Puri. There's a railway track. The British government put specifically for him. Right?
I've been there, I never knew that.
Yeah. It's in Godrum. There are 9 islands. It's in the Godrum Island. So such a personality is... So Krishna conscious means you're not a bum on the street, chanting Hare Krishna. You do everything exemplary because you're focused on everything. And there's a purpose for everything. Purpose is Krishna. Because of our love to the source, our gratitude to the source of everything. I am here because of my love for my spiritual teacher and spiritual master. I could be doing so many other things. It's not a mechanical process, it's an act of love, act of service. And that's our lives. Let me see if there are any other slides. Okay, that's it. Perfect. Any questions? So let me ask a question. How are you going to apply what you learned the next time you're doing anything in your life?
Okay, I have one question actually before I answer. So when you are focused, you say your time is freed up. Probably you do a quantum of work in shorter amount of time with more focus. So what happens to that void? There should be something to fill up that void.
Is there anything less to do in spiritual life?
No, exactly. So do you
Okay,
have
so-
suggestions on?
Okay. So
Because that's a
nature
problem
of-
which will come up.
So nature of spirit is eternal. So services are eternal. There is unlimited tasks to do in Krishna consciousness. We could use that time to chat more rounds. We can read more. We can speak about what we have heard, because it's always a good way to remember things when we share it with others. And we don't have to say, Krishna, God. I mean, those words scare people away. Religion, especially. But there are a lot of things that we're learning that are very universal, that are very applicable in day-to-day lives. So we can share that. And that way we get a much better understanding of things. Especially when you verbalize it, it's just so amazing. It doesn't sound like much, but when you do it, you'll see. It's really nice. So instead of talking about mundane subject matters like, what happened to that baseball player cheating on his wife or whatever, bring it to a better topic. Bring it to a topic that might benefit others. Extra time you have, think about questions, how we can make this practical in our lives. Or even simpler, like, what is the next step? What can be done? Where is our mind? Write it down. Right now, my desires are, list of desires. I have this. What is this meant for? Contemplation. If you need services, Vedic Vision Society has lots of services, lots of help that we need. Happy to, like, you said you would write for techies. So, we have so much things we can do. Because the mind needs engagement, right? The moment you let the mind be on its own, it becomes powerful and then takes over. Like, I want this, I want that. So rather, keep it under control. Having a regular schedule, go to bed at a certain time, eat at a certain time, wake up at a certain time, and fill your life with services and spiritual activities. And right now it might start with just one spiritual activity and many other things in the list. Slowly it will grow. As we get more higher taste, we want to do more. And that's why I cannot stop talking. Anything else? Shubharnu, you seem contemplative.
I don't have anything to add.
So, 3 things we can apply from this. Anybody? You can say 1, somebody can say 2, and somebody can say 3.
1.
This is very discouraging. Regulating our schedules. Thank you.
Start with that.
So, how will you do that?
Just fix the time, get up early, so every day you should get up at this time. I think that's the first place to start with.
So, what time would that be for you specifically?
For me, I would tell 6:30.
6:30? Okay. So, you're a Cabra. So, we'll all remember it.
But each day is like different and something or the other is just coming up. So how can you like stick to the schedule?
Stick to the schedule. Make a sincere effort that no matter what, even if I go to bed late, let me wake up at this time. And it takes 21 days to form a habit. And any ideas how easy it is to break a habit?
3 days.
10 more seconds. So form a habit, and you'll find yourself maybe, talking for too long or watching a movie that went a little overboard, but wake up at a certain time. That way the mind gets used to it. Today I wanted to sleep in, and I still woke up at 5 o'clock. I was like, I just couldn't sleep after that because I'm used to it. Generally I wake up at 4, that was an hour, but slept in. So, it's habit. Just practice. We're practicing devotee. Just like with practice, we can do better math, better physics, better anything. There are practice exams, take-home exams, whatever. It's all basically practicing. So Krishna consciousness is also, initially it's practice, later on it becomes, the natural thing comes out. And we can naturally do these things. Naturally wake up early in the morning and, eat at a certain time and whatever other things that are. Does it help? Answer. Okay.
lust and laziness.
Lust and
It's
laziness.
connected.
Yeah, there is
The less
relationship.
lustful you are, the more active you become. I think so. The sleep time reduces.
Let me think about
What
it.
is the
I mean, of course, there is connection, but I'm trying to see like what perspective you're asking.
So I'm asking like you may say all lazy people are lustful.
I wouldn't say that, but I would say all of us have certain amounts of lust in us, right?
To a greater degree compared to people who are active. in a sense.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, because a lot of that activity is directed towards the desire to gratify our senses in whatever way possible. Right? A lot of people, the whole idea during the day is when I go home, meet my wife at night, blah blah blah. Right? That's why all the money, so I can have a better house, better cars, so I'll attract more people towards me. What is that all towards? A certain goal. High rises, higher technology, for 4 things: eating, sleeping, better sex, and defense. So it's not like only lazy people are lusty.
But all lusty people are lazy.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
No.
But
Like I said, all of us have different levels of lust in us. And all of us have different levels of laziness. So according to the modes of nature, there are 3 modes of nature: goodness, passion, ignorance. And laziness is important. At night, if you're not lazy, how will you go to sleep?
But if you're allowed to sleep only for a particular time, then it's as bad as not sleeping at all.
No,
4 hours, 3 hours.
not true at all.
You're like torturing yourself.
Not true at all. The sleep quality that you can get from a regulated schedule is way different. In fact, try, I wouldn't say try, but I'm sure we have all slept for 13, 14 hours at straight. When you get up, you feel tired. You don't feel fresh. But, when I woke up today, I felt fresh. I was, it's jubilant. Finished my shower, went down chanting. It's fantastic.
So that was because you're lustful.
Partially, because of that. But there are other things too. Yeah. But regulated schedule helps in every single way. My mind is always engaged. My teacher is such an expert. He's given me so much services from morning to night that my mind is completely engaged in services. So I don't have really time to think about other things. So when I wake up, even when I'm dreaming, I'm thinking of my services. So that is Krishna consciousness. And now I'm just a tiny insignificant thing here. And somebody like my teacher, even more intense.
And even he's tiny compared to Krishna.
Of course. Of course. Krishna is infinite, we are infinitesimal. But that's big, and there's a lot of happiness in this, not torture. It's not torture. Because initially it might be a little difficult, just like taking an exam is difficult. When you get the degree, you feel very happy, right? So like that, with Krishna here, and there are other, Sri Hari, all the PhD students struggling like anything. You're PhD too? Sorry. They're waiting for the day they'll get their, PhD. But so there's hardship, but they know one day it'll happen. So like that, initially at the beginning phase, it's kind of difficult, but we know it's good for us. That's how it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to meant to sleep for 14 hours a day. That's for a bear body. That's why bears like to sleep for 6 months. Right?
So what do you think would be the ideal sleep time?
It doesn't matter what I think.
What is Bhagavad Gita say?
So Bhagavad Gita, I don't know if Bhagavad Gita specifically says, but Vedic scriptures speak about 6 hours.
6 hours.
Yeah, 6 to 7 hours is a good time.
Okay.
But it differs according to people. Some people like 8 hours, some people like 7. Whatever your body suits. But the point is balance. Not too little, not too much. That Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 6.
About
That-
moderation.
Yes, about moderation. Because the yogi, he doesn't eat too much, he doesn't eat too less. He doesn't sleep too much, he doesn't sleep too less. So you have to find the perfect balance. Ultimately, how is your consciousness when you wake up and when you're meditating? Whatever it takes for that time to be the most best and most optimal, you do that. And there are certain things, because we have such a long history of teachers and disciples, there are certain already well-tested paths. So we follow those paths. 6 hours of sleep. Don't watch violent things or movies or before going to bed. Eat early. Eat at 6:37, at least 4 hours before going to bed. 3-4 hours before going to bed, so that there is enough time to digest. Otherwise, you'll be dreaming. So there are certain things that we do in our lives, certain time of the day. Morning time is great for meditation. When you try meditating at 10:30 at night, it's very difficult. Basically, you're dreaming while you're meditating. So, sure. There was something else I saw somewhere around here.
And you follow a South-Peak diet. What is because do you think it's possible to follow a South-Peak diet in the United States?
Why Krishna lunch every
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday?
Krishna lunch. Yeah. So Krishna lunch is a program that VVS does. We bring in food. It's actually not sattvic. It's beyond sattvic. It's transcendental, because it's sattvic food that has been offered to Krishna. So it's called prasadam. So we bring in delicious food on campus 3 days a week. Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. There's a marketing spiel.
You could get it for free.
Huh?
Today you'll get it for
Today is free.
Today you'll get it for free.
Yeah, but we don't have enough rich donors to sustain it for free.
Hopefully you get someone soon.
Maybe you can start working and donate. You can get free lunch for your juniors.
She stole my. That's exactly what I was thinking. Anyway.
Sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
if you've done.
Yeah.
I wanted to add probably the example of Srila Prabhupada, because you said some people 2 hours of sleep. He sustained on.
He used to sleep just for 4 hours. That's because of this
If you
spiritual
could give the
nature.
example
Isn't
of.
it like a person has to have 7 hours of sleep? Because there's a lot of people get sick when they don't sleep much, and there are like articles on a successful man. He is like, he works out really well and he takes care of his health, but since he doesn't get enough sleep, he dies. Like, there are a lot of articles like that I have read.
That's quite tragic.
So it's like, it doesn't matter like when you sleep and then get up, like the way you say, like at that time. But if you don't get sleep, isn't it going to affect the entire system?
Yeah. That's why, like I said, chapter 6, Krishna says that a yogi doesn't sleep too less, doesn't sleep too much, doesn't eat too less, doesn't eat too much. Now, they might say 7 hours, some other magazine might say 8 hours, somebody else might say 5 hours. So it depends. We are human beings, we are all individuals, right? You cannot just have a number for everybody that works. It doesn't work like that. So according to our body, we have to understand that, whether it's 6, 7, 8, whatever that time is. But not 14, not 12. Right? So keeping it at a moderation, whatever, and especially as beginning stage, there's a little lax, so 8 hours is fine. So we work with what we have. Like I said, the goal is that when I'm chanting, when I wake up, that I should be able to chant without feeling drowsy, feeling terrible. It shouldn't feel like a burden. This is a very happy process. Chanting Hare Krishna, living a Krishna conscious life, is a happy process. Initially it feels like a little bitter because we are used to unregulated life. But once we are in the tracks, it's like, for me, I feel like, my God, I wasted all my life. 19 years of my life I wasted before I came to Krishna consciousness. But nevertheless, it's a very happy time. And it doesn't matter whether things around me are falling apart or things around me are looking great. I'm always happy. Not saying I'm happy, but a devotee feels always happy because of the connection with Krishna. That cannot be taken away. Money, if our happiness is based on, the number on my account, I like to see that grow. Let's say the stock market fails, all the happiness goes with the stocks. Right? But if our happiness is dependent on our relationship with Krishna, it only grows because that relationship is growing. So the spiritual aspect, eternality. So like that, based on the focus of where our focus is, upon which our happiness is dependent, accordingly, our lives.
So I'd like to ask a question. Like, there are two kinds of people, there are the one who thinks with the mind and, acts, and the one who does with the heart, like, whatever work it is. So I'm kind of a person who does it with like heart. I don't like, even if I want to, like the intelligence saying that, this is not right, but there is always a soft corner saying that no, this can be done through this, like I fall for it, right? So how do I like, but this going through hard way is always a problem. Like it's just, it doesn't really work out because you know that there's going to be something wrong. And how do I kind of, convert myself from, doing things through my heart into like converting into through my mind, like the intelligence, so that, I don't end up doing something wrong or,
So intelligence, it's sharpened through the process of hearing. So a lot of people are into personal branding or into business, and so they hear seminars or lectures or whatever, and accordingly they groom themselves, build self-esteem, whatever, Leadership Academy on campus, they do seminars every month, I believe, on Saturdays. So like that, whatever you hear, accordingly you grow in that direction. When you hear about Krishna conscious topics, that strengthens your intelligence. And to the degree you accept in your heart, to the degree you're not accept in the sense like accept, reject, but apply whatever goes in. Maybe from today's lecture, one thing might stick. Like for him, he said regulation. Great. If he nurtures that, right, that will help strengthen the intelligence when going to bed. Hey, it's 10 o'clock, I should go to bed, I shouldn't just hang around. Right? So you're thinking from your intelligence. Because you take that seriously, that one thing that came from it, you take it seriously. And then after, a few days of doing that or a few weeks of doing that, you see the difference. Your time opens up. There is so much more to do. There's so much more time that you know what to do with it. But then you ask what you can do. But it's nice. So you see the results, and then faith comes. Right? And then you take the next step. And so through the hearing process, intelligence is sharpened, strengthened. And then you don't look like that guy with the blue robes. Intelligence becomes stronger, muscles. So you can hold the weights properly. So there is a distinction between man and woman, and I'm taking the risk of saying this. Men generally are analytical, and women generally work with their emotions. It's important to balance both. Intelligence is important. At the same time, it can be very dry if it's just intelligence and no heart. When we do our services, we should put our hearts into it. But when the intelligence is drawing the boundary. There was this guy from Shimer, and he came to Krishna consciousness, and he immediately wanted to, have this and do that, and hi-fi things that are not appropriate for a very early stage in Krishna consciousness. And because he was putting his heart into it, he really liked what he was doing. And he wanted to live in the temple, and then suddenly one day he was gone. And that's because he couldn't take it. It's not a gradual. It's like a boom, boom. You go up real fast, you come down real fast, because there was intelligence. Heart was there, but intelligence tells you I should follow my teacher's advice. Just like a doctor gives a prescription that you can take. Okay, here's an easy way to speak. This is Prabhupada's example. So parents come to a doctor. Oh, my son has a fever. Can you please help get rid of this fever? There's two ways to do it. One way to do it is, doctor, cut off the child's head. It's like, what did you do to my child? He's dead. Like, yeah, the fever's gone. The other way to do it is, give proper prescription, give proper medicine, according to age, according to weight, and accordingly the body will react and the child will get better. Right? So that's the intelligence part. And for us, intelligence is, whatever is prescribed to me, I do that. And my teacher is expert, so I will follow in that path. And as time comes, more will come. More instructions will come, and I'll grow in that. So that's the intelligence part. But heart is also necessary. Heart is, okay, given my frame of reference, whatever I'm supposed to be doing, what can I do that's best? So you put your heart into it. And it's not that the results speak for itself, but the sincerity with which we offer. Krishna appreciates it very much. One of the names of Krishna is Bhavagrahi Janardhan. Janardhan is the name of Krishna. Bhava is the mood, the essence. So he takes the essence of what we're offering. So some people might be able to sing very nicely or not. Some people might be able to cook very nicely or not. But the point is, how much heart are they putting into it? And that's how much Krishna accepts. That's what he accepts. So don't take away that heart part, that I'll make mistakes. The mistakes will happen. Accept them. That's only natural. But the sincerity is, I'll still keep trying. Because I really want this. Whatever I've tasted so far, I like it. So why not try this? Does it make sense? Sorry for the long answers. I'll try. I cannot speak long sentences. Anything else? Okay, Vishal.